Hello and welcome to another edition of Profiles on the UCF channel. I'm Ed Highland, and you're in for a musical treat today. Our guest is Eladio Scharron. Dr. Scharron has won numerous awards and competitions. He's also been invited to prestigious guitar festivals like the Brussels Guitar Festival and the International Guitar Festival of Puerto Rico, among others. Eladio has premiered and is the dedicatee of many new works for guitar, and since August of 1998 has been part of the faculty in the Department of Music at the University of Central Florida. Welcome so much. Thank you so much for coming by and joining us today.
Well, very nice to be here, and I'm very glad that you have all these facilities, and very happy to be your guest today.
Let's go back right to the very beginnings, if we could. Where did your musical roots begin? How does this form in your life and bring you to the point where you are now teaching and playing classical guitar?
Well, I am from Puerto Rico, and from a town, the name of the town is San Sebastián, in the west central part of Puerto Rico. And of course, it's not the capital. We don't have that many facilities for the study of music. But in Puerto Rico, almost everybody plays guitar, popular guitar, that is. And my grandfather was a farmer, but also a musician. He played Puerto Rican cuatro. I have uncles who played guitar. One of them played with a very famous group over there. He played a small guitar called requinto, and probably that's why I started to play guitar around the age of 9 years old. Mm-hmm. But the classical guitar I started when I started the university. I was 17 and started to take some courses and private courses, and my intention was not originally to study classical guitar, but to do something like arrangements or compositions related to popular music. But then I started to study classical guitar, and I decided that was the way for me, and started to listen to the recordings of Andres Segovia, John Williams, Julian Bream, and many others, and I'm still doing it.
Now, you had an opportunity, I know, over the past several years to go out and I don't want to get into the rather lengthy list of all the things you've done, and it is very, very impressive to say the least. But you had, in particular, a wonderful time. You were telling me earlier about going to Italy, and maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Let me see. I'm going to try to summarize here. I studied in Puerto Rico at the University of Puerto Rico, and after finishing my bachelor degree, I went to France to study with a very important guitar professor over there, Alberto Ponce, and I have diplomas from the École Normale de Musique, which is one of the main schools in the city of Paris. And I also lived many years in France, where I was a teacher in one of the municipal conservatories in Paris. And then I came back to Puerto Rico, the States, did the doctorate at Eastman School of Music. And of course, during all those years, I have been performing, did also international competitions. And for example, last year, I went to Italy to participate in an international guitar festival, which is called the Festival of the Two Cities, because it happens both in Treviso, which is a city near Venice, and in Rome. So I performed both in Treviso and Rome, and actually performed premiered one of the works of one of our composers at UCF, Dr. Stella Sung.
Which we'll have a chance to hear in just a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And it brings to mind the question, with this great accomplishment of performance, which do you prefer, the performing side of it or the teaching side of it? We have so many youngsters, young people who are coming up in this world who would like to learn from your talents.
Well, I think to evolve, especially in relation to the classical guitar, although I had good professors, the pedagogical tradition of the classical guitar is not as consistent as that of the piano, for example. So I guess, and this will be the same for any artist, we are always evolving in a quest of better ways of expressing yourself. Yeah, the performance side for me is very important. But the teaching aspects in my work are equally important, because I want to give to other people what I have learned in my own quest. And sometimes I get desperate because I like to to summarize many years of experimentation, if I may say, in just a few hours, and that make my students nervous because I am eager to give them all the things that I know and that can facilitate their own quest.
Would you say you perhaps learn something yourself as you're teaching, at least
Absolutely.
remember?
It's just amazing. I mean, I've been teaching classical guitar since the late 70s. And I have to admit, I have amazed myself sometimes because I get to learn new things almost every semester. There's some things that I consider to be important, and I try to give that right away to my students.
Well, let's take a look. We've got a videotape of the performance that you did. It was an in-studio type of thing, not a concert performance, but it was a work that was done, as you mentioned, by a UCF
Absolutely.
professor, Dr. Stella Sung. Tell us a little bit about the history of the song. Where did the song come from? What's it all about?
Well, last year I had to play in this festival in Italy that I mentioned, and all the concerts, each one of the concerts was going to be dedicated to a particular composer, because I was going to play Heitor Villa-Lobos, the great composer from Brazil, his 12 studies for solo guitar. So I decided to dedicate my recital to Villa-Lobos, and then I talked with Stella Sung, who was a close friend of mine and very respected composer, not only at UCF but in the whole region of Central Florida. Since many years ago, since I got to UCF, I was trying to convince her to write something for the guitar. She's not a guitar player; she's a pianist. And to write for the guitar is not easy. It's a very difficult instrument, and most people find it challenging when they don't know the instrument. So she took that challenge. I proposed a piece in homage to Villa-Lobos, but a piece that would evoke somehow the lyrical aspects of the music of Villa-Lobos, and that's how we came up with the title Modinha, which is a sort of love song that the Portuguese have, and also very much used in Brazil, and used in particular by Villa-Lobos, who wrote several modinhas for voice and guitar, or voice or other instruments. But this one is instrumental.
Then let us listen to a few minutes of Modinha. Wonderful composition there, one of our own professors at UCF. Maybe you can give us an idea of, we've used the, I guess, fairly broad term classical guitar. How would you characterize this particular song under that umbrella of classic guitar music?
I think her piece is a good representation of the music written for this instrument during these times. The styles, of course, go by cycles. For example, the 70s were more avant-garde in many respects, at least in relation to the classical guitar repertoire.
Mm-hmm. So it was avant-garde, but it was still under the umbrella of what was considered to be classical guitar music.
The 70s.
70s,
yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
I just wasn't sure if it was a different genre, if we're branching off and say, okay, you have classical and then you have more avant-garde, or if it could still fall under
no,
that.
I think it's classical. It's maybe an unfortunate term, but that's what most people understand. When we say classical guitar, we refer to a particular technique in opposition, let's say, to flamenco guitar or rock guitar or jazz guitar.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's I think we could be compared, for example, like to pianists, to classical piano, where the classical guitar is an instrument that can accompany itself. It's a soloist instrument, like the piano or the organ.
So this would fall more under perhaps a folk category, or how would?
Oh, the piece?
Yeah, the piece. Yes.
No. It's totally. I don't know the term.
Mm-hmm.
Learn music. I don't know. It's not. It actually it doesn't use any clear elements that make reference to folkloric music, but probably some elements that make reference to the music of Villalobos. Now, Villalobos himself got inspiration from some folk music from his own native Brazil, mm-hmm. but his style of composition, in many respects, follows the European tradition. Stella's music, of course, follows into that tradition as well, but with her own style, her own flavors.
So interpretive, that's what I would use as a term. Basically, she took some elements and
yes, it's not a copy of the music of Villalobos. That's what I like. Actually, we discussed the piece before she started to compose it, and I gave her some examples. I remember that I had one of Villalobos' pieces for piano, one of his choros. It's called a choro. The title is. I forgot the title, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
But actually, it was a piece that had some lyrical aspects. Because, of course, I was going to play the studies in my concert for the festival in Italy, but the studies are more technical. And a few of them have some lyric aspects. But I wanted to make more reference to other music from Villalobos. For example, his Baquianas Brasileiras No. 5 is a very famous example. If you don't know that, that's a good work to start with the music of Villalobos. That's for mezzo-soprano and cello orchestra, which is quite unusual. So I was looking for that type of thing, and of course, in the music of Villalobos, there's a lot of rhythm as well. So the piece combines all those elements: the calm lyric melodic line with some parts that are more dynamic and active rhythmically, and also some harmonic aspects. For example, Villalobos was a great fan of the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, so he uses what is called in music sequences. Harmonic sequences, and Stella incorporates some of those in her piece, but in a totally different style. She's got her own voice, and I'm very flattered, I have to say, that she took off her time to write a piece for the guitar, and of course for me, I'm very honored.
How is it as a performer when you get you see a piece like this, especially one that's an original piece, and you start to look it over and put your own mark on it, if you will? Because we were discussing before how you perform and you have arranged some things, but you're really not a composer in your own right.
Well, you know, what is difficult for a classical guitarist, and I think that would be the same thing for a pianist, is to find music that will help you in defining your own style. It's just, and sometimes you get to pieces that are just difficult to put your stamp on. And it just happened that Stella's piece fit my style. Mm-hmm. So I think that's almost a miracle for me. So I'm very at ease with her style and this particular piece. Yeah.
Talk about styles a little bit, if you would, because there are so many, especially for a layperson like myself, there are so many styles out there, and we may not know the names, but we can tell that this song is different from this song. Do you like to branch out and play, I'll say rock and roll, just to pull out a genre there, but you know, to play different types of music? Do you learn and help your personal growth by playing different types and styles of music, or do you really feel that you like to stay within that area that you're most comfortable with the classical area?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and the answer, I mean, I could talk for hours about that. I think, and I tell my students that culture is very important, and openness to our culture. So if you want to be a good musician, a good artist, you have to expand as much as possible your cultural horizons. You mentioned rock, for example. Of course, when I was an adolescent, I played some rock. I played salsa rock, you know, in the style of Santana, for example. Groups like Chicago and Blood, Sweat and Tears, and before that, the Beatles were in fashion. Not that I am that old, of course. But
neither one of us, huh?
But I guess I got the benefit of being nourished by a great variety of styles, and in classical guitar, we touch all those things. You know, there are composers today that get inspiration, whether it's from jazz, rock. For example, there's a French composer, forgot the name, but he's got a piece that is in homage to Pink Floyd that was very popular when I was a student in Paris, for example. You know, and there are arrangements of Beatles songs by composers like Takemitsu, a very important composer from Japan. So you see, the guitar player, the classical guitar player today, if he wants to be an effective player and a good artist, needs to have a quite large culture, musical culture. Not only musical culture, but of course culture in general is also necessary. I don't know if I answer your question.
Oh, exactly. I wasn't sure if I would see you playing Louie Louie at some point in a garage band in an earlier part in your life. But you're saying basically that to be a well-rounded musician, you do have to be all-inclusive of all styles.
Absolutely. You should. I have a hero in classical guitar, Julian Bream, a guitarist from Great Britain. And Julian Bream, what is great about him is that he's able to touch a great variety of styles that are related to the classical guitar, let's say, from Renaissance music to Baroque music to contemporary music. And I've thought for a long time about that, you know, and what I think is that one of Julian Bream's heroes was Django Reinhardt, for example. He was a famous jazz guitar player, a gypsy guitar player from that was born in Belgium, but worked mainly in France, and played even with Duke Ellington. Well, what I think about Julian Bream is that he's able to love a lot of music, and if you want to be able to play different styles, your love should be quite broad, quite large. I don't know if that
Oh yeah, exactly.
that's interesting, but.
And how, give us the quick, in the last couple of minutes we've got here, maybe you could give us an idea, the students that come into your class, where do you start with them? I mean, here you have this raw talent, here are these young minds, and they are ready to, and open and willing to many different things. Kind of give us an idea of where you start with them and continue to open these doors, not only the other styles, but also to what you're trying to teach them.
Well, as part of their lessons, they have individual lessons with me, normally 1 hour a week lessons. But another day of the week, we have what I call a master class hour, where all the students are together. So many times I do presentations. I can talk about the history of the instrument, or let's say the music from Bolivia. I was in Bolivia with a Fulbright scholarship this last summer, so I learned a lot of things from over there. I brought music. So I try to share all those things with them just to stimulate them to learn more. Also, they have presentations. They have to pick up any subject related to the guitar. It could be from Baroque music to the relation of other styles, like popular styles, even finger picking, something that can be related to classical guitar, and that's the way for them to know more and be more enthusiastic about the study of the instrument. Yeah.
And in between all that, do you still find time to occasionally do performances around Central Florida as well?
Absolutely. I'm going to be performing with the UCF Symphony Orchestra under the direction of Dr. Laszlo Marosi, our orchestra conductor. We'll be performing February 19th. That's going to be at UCF at the VAB Auditorium, and also on February 20th in one of the schools that are nearby. And I'll be performing the Concerto for Guitar and Orchestra of the Mexican composer Manuel Maria Ponce, of whom I'm recording his complete works for guitar with the company Centaur. One of them is available, so.
It almost makes you wonder, how do you have time to, you have class, you have students and performances and some of the other international festivals that you're taking part in. It sounds like a busy life.
I don't know how I have time. I have to be honest. It's well, I think we are all passionate at the Department of Music, and probably that's the truth for most faculty at the UCF. So we, try to find time to do things that will keep us active in our community and beyond, of course. Yes.
Passionate about the music and the performance.
Absolutely.
Can't ask more than that. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
That does bring us to another end for Profiles. Our thanks to Dr. Eladio Scharron for sharing his time and musical inspiration with us. I'm Ed Hyland for the UCF Channel.